Good evening, everybody. I'll have to change the day numbers. Oh, well, oh, um, sorry. I pushed that start button before I was really ready, but that's okay. It's okay. It's been really exciting days. And there's no discrepancy that this is over 2,100 and what 50, 60, 63 days, Um, it's been going on a long time. Every day, a lot of people take breaks. I take Good Friday. I take Good Friday, Um, but anyway, just so every day, and this is what has to be done when an El Paso cartel conglomerate, it's not just an El Paso cartel, it's a conglomerate, okay? It is alliances with the Sinaloa cartel, with the Juarez cartel. Sinaloa cartel are terroristic organization, and a transnational terroristic organization. Okay, so they've captured many countries, many parts of many countries, and so it is, you know, a a big deal that this El Paso cartel is, has a air fleet, has um, shipping, has, and their huachicol, the huachicol. Oh, anyway, I had it the other day. Um, but it's, the whole oil theft. That's what I'm trying to say. Well, it's really petroleum products. It's really oil and gas products. And you have to have a refinery, or and you money launder, and you oil launder because it's all of this forgery going on, and of course the forgery going on with the planes, forgery going on with death certificates and with dead bodies, forgeries going on everywhere. You know, we used to make fun because we lived in Germany for so long that in Germany you have to have a stempel, a stamp, and then another stempel, another stamp, and another, and you had to go to these different offices to get these different stamps before they declared your paperwork valid, right? And now I understand that because we have so much forgery, so much fraud, so much scamming, and in Richard's case, it's it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. But I don't think I changed the numbers. But we're at 2,163, 64 days. Make sure, yeah, 63 days. Um, since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room. And this is why we come on every day, because our son, a U.S. Army soldier, saw cartel infiltration, saw um, foreign and domestic enemies that were up to no good, um, breaching national security, tampering with elections, and this is what this is all about. They have to control the elections. They have to control who's in office so that they can continue their transnational trafficking operations. Their transnational fuel theft, their forgery on that. They have to control, um, uh, the Strait of Hormuz. They have to control um, the trafficking of children, the trafficking of drugs. They want a monopoly on it, you see. They want a monopoly, and they were created conglomerate, making alliances and making like one big cartel. And that one big cartel um, is the El Paso cartel. And who would have thought that a plane A plane would be the linchpin. The plane is the linchpin, okay? Richard is the key. The plane is the linchpin. It is absolutely incredible what's happening. And why are we doing this every day? You know, people write me. I mean, we have been so attacked and so threatened. We don't even know who's serious about, their threats or not. And over the years, we have made sure that we documented all of that, and that helps a whole lot. So if someone is bullying you, threatening you, harassing you, do not take it. Do not take it laying down. You've got to um, identify it and document it and then report it. File it. File it. It's so important. Especially you can even file it with their employers. That really helps too. So, because it's been just incredible, and a testimony on how important Richard's case is. Okay. Why would billionaires and millionaires want to attack us, right? Why would they spend the money to get their groups out to attack us? Because Richard's case is just that important. He's the key. And this plane is the linchpin, the plane that belongs to uh, De La Vega Foster, right? De La Vega Foster. Um, so let's get started. Why? Because Richard, you can't be a U.S. Army soldier that you volunteer. You give your best, you become a distinguished honor graduate, number one in basic training, number one in AIT, the fastest runner in the unit. You do everything right so that you make rank very quickly. Richard made rank very quickly with waivers before his peers. He was the guidon bearer, black belt, doing really well. And in Qatar, um, when he got E4, which is specialist, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna be an NCO soon, right?" I mean, so quick, because, he clipped out of college math, 6 college credits. When he was 15, he clipped out of, German, 6, college credits when he was 15. Um, so, he, of course, played the piano, and, he was your dream volunteer, moral, Christian, respected women, did not look at women um, as, um, as a sex cult does that was there, that was compromising our soldiers. Um, and Richard reported the sexual exploitation of the children. And I can tell you in our investigation, it gets very, very bad, y'all. It gets so bad. And Richard, being who he is, um, could not, absolutely could not just stand there and watch this, because it involved filming, right? It involved the filming of the worst type of crimes against children, and a lot of sex cult activity on the base. It was really bad, and he started uh, uh, complaining in Qatar when he was in the Strait of Hormuz area. When he was deployed to Qatar, you could say Qatar or Qatar. Tomato, tomato. Okay. But that's where he started really complaining about his leadership, about their unlawful activities. It was there. And now we know through Nadal Baim and and the leadership that they were up to no good, right? That they were using our military, using deployments for criminal personal gain, and that involved all kinds of stuff. Okay. It just got so out of this has been going on since Iran Contra. So it has gotten out of hand, y'all. It has gotten big and really out of hand. And the one person that was willing to say, no, this is not right, was President Trump. And you see that because of, well, his actions, of course. And, but if you don't like his actions, you see that in the hatred that the El Paso cartel have for him. And I don't know even if it's hatred. I think he's a direct threat to their international, transnational um, El Paso cartel conglomerate operations. And that's why what I'm about to tell you about the plane and everything surrounding it has everything to do with the one goal. And the one goal was stop Trump. Stop Trump. They did not want Trump to be president. That is the main goal. Okay. That was their main goal. And so, oh, goodness. Everything I'm about to tell you is about election tampering, is political, is about smearing and doing whatever it takes to control the minds of the people, to control the vote, to yeah, to stop Trump. That's what I mean. They became unhinged and desperate. And so now everything I'm about to tell you um, really makes sense. Really makes sense. Because when you think about what happened to Richard, that he was forcibly removed from his barracks room to be by his own command, to be dragged downstairs to the arms room because it was a soundproof room and it was also a restricted access room that they could access. It was their, room. Um, that that's where they took his life. And then because they were CID, they were in alliance with the FBI. They were in with the law enforcement. Okay, and these are traitors, traitor and rogue FBI, rogue CID, rogue other law enforcement. Um, they knew they had to get rid of the body, especially since Vanessa Guillen's body had just been found. Vanessa Guillen's body had just been found on June 30th. It came out, they released the identity on July 4th of 2020. So they knew when they got rid of Richard, they had to get rid of his remains. And that's where the dismemberment came in. But with them, everything is insurance, fraud, forgery, because they had Delia Briones, right? The county clerk who absolutely messes with the death certificates and that. Um, that is, that's just clear. It's not me. It's just clear. She's part of the El Paso cartel. And she's a very important part of the El Paso cartel because of her position to forge documents that can produce a lot of income. Okay. So getting rid of Richard's body, his life was worth a lot of money because he was a U.S. Army soldier. And of course, Dallas Hart, He's the prime suspect in our son's case. His father is IDS Pablo. That's not a coincidence that you have someone that is veterans benefits, which include the death benefits, and the very cousins involved, CID Tavita Nusa and his brother Solomon Nusa, a major in mortuary operations. And so the people that were harassing us, there were these common denominators, and the common denominators were like, gosh, they're all connected to mortuary affairs or mortuary operations or funeral homes and things like that. Why is that? Why is that? And also that they were had this common denominator that they were or were connected to the Mormon faction there. The Mormon faction being connected to the Mormon colonies that were in Chihuahua, Mexico, because this is a border area, and the border area is crossed very, very easily, and is very profitable because of that border area. Um, so, and living there for so long, going to school there, and being born at White Sands Missile Range, we came into this understanding the area, understanding Operation Paperclip, the German influence in that area, because my mother is German, and I speak German. And so growing up, going to the German commissary there on Fort Bliss, and my parents playing pinochle, whatever, with the Germans there. Not um, so in with the Germans because my dad was enlisted, and most of these Germans were officers. Okay, so we knew 28 that died, and my dad always wondered, how did they die? He was very suspicious in the deaths of these German scientists way back then. Okay, way back then. So, gosh, I don't want to give you my age. So, coming into El Paso, it's not like we didn't know anybody. It's not like we weren't familiar with the area. Not We're very familiar with the area and what's going on there, but we didn't realize how powerful the El Paso cartel had gotten, and how they had made these alliances, and how they have just gotten a grip over that whole border area, being Maru Campos and Chihuahua, being the Sinaloa cartel proxy, and then of course you have the De La Vega, Foster, Woody Hunt, Rick Francis, and that group, uh, very, very has a grip on El Paso, has a grip on them. And you see that by the boards, you see that by the media. It's it's the control of the media, the control of the boards that are there in El Paso. They really have a grip, and they are in alliance with the Sinaloa cartel, the Chapo faction, but and that's really important to know that it was two. We had El Chapo, and then you had El Mayo, and they were brothers, Ismael, El Mayo Zambada Garcia, and then El Chapo Guzman. Um, oh, I don't know his old name right now, but he's in prison, and so is Almayo's in prison, and it seemed like to me, all this research, it's like the El Paso cartel really wanted to be the kingpins, the new king queen pins of the cartel world, okay? Instead of the old El Mayo, the old El Chapo, They made alliances with the Juarez cartel, with the CJNG, with the Sinaloa alliance, especially after the arrest that President Trump did of El Chapo. So the rest of the El Chapo Sinaloa cartel, and the holdout was El Mayo, and that's very important because um, in 2024, President Trump, he's just a worker, right? He's just such a worker, and what he what he was doing was outpacing Kamala Harris. He just totally outpaced her. And they needed a win for Kamala Harris in 2024, right before the election, because you saw what happened at the, well, most people, if they didn't see it, they heard what happened at the debate between President Trump and Biden. And it was so disastrous that they had to replace Biden with Kamala Harris. And what's very interesting is that the co-chair for $1.2 billion for Biden was Veronica Escobar. And and of course, she's a representative from El Paso, Texas. Um, when Biden was really could not go on. And they put in Kamala Harris, and I think it was kind of illegal how they did all that because of the money. That 1.2 that was for Biden, then all of a sudden became the money for Harris. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. Maybe a lawyer could tell me, but it was just fishy to me because with that 1.2 billion came Veronica Escobar. She was also the co-chair for Kamala Harris. And that seemed really fishy to me too. I don't think that happens too often. I don't think that happens too often. So it is very notable to say it, to point it out. And of course, Kamala was being outpaced by President Trump, and they needed a win. They needed some kind of win. And yeah, I'm going to answer all your comments in a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. Um, so the the kidnapping of El Mayo happened. Happened. And I think it was, and this is my opinion, I think had many different reasons for it. One being the holdout of their monopoly. Um, he was their competition, right? El Mayo was their competition, and the maisas are the El Mayo branch of the Sinaloa cartel. So yeah, so they wanted to take out their competition, but they also wanted to win a border win because Kamala was the border czar during the Biden administration, and she was very, very weak, didn't even show up. She just, she was just not skilled to do that job, right? She's not skilled at all, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but she doesn't seem too skilled. And so she looked very weak at the border. They needed a win. And so they said, okay, we can take out our competitor, Almaya. Um, we can have a win for Kamala Harris. But we can also have, have a win when it came to the huachicol, right? I think I said it right this time. The huachicol, um, and which is the fuel theft, right? Without El Mayo, there was just so much that they could do. We could also control the case. This is also important because, the writing was on the wall that President Trump had a very good chance of winning. And they wanted to control, because who knows what happened with the El Chapo, how much damage was done, or how much they had to work really hard to prevent any damage. Um, because they're ruthless, y'all. Whatever, whatever. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I can tell you they're vile and vulgar. I can tell you that. Um, so, so I think they were trying to control the case of El Mayo, right? With Ray Velarde being El Mayo's attorney, and El Mayo, I don't think he speaks much English. So they just wanted to have the control of him. And of course, it was El Chapo's son that betrayed El Mayo, and El Chapo's was in alliance with the Sinaloa proxy, Maru Campos. So she's totally in on this. And, um, and who said that they led that kidnapping? Okay, because that's what it is. It's a kidnapping. It's not an extradition. You know why? Because there's no extradition paperwork. To call it an extradition, you have to have extradition paperwork. And also in 2024, that was before President Trump became president, before the Sinaloa cartel were designated terroristic organization. Okay. So you needed to have an international agreement. You needed to have an extradition order. You needed to have a judge involved. There's none of that. Okay. There's none of that. This was a rogue operation, a kidnapping, led by a rogue El Paso FBI assistant special agent in charge, Conal Whetten. Okay. Now, that's not me saying it. That is him. He just said it on July 3rd, 2026. He just admitted that he led the operation that kidnapped El Mayo. Now, it's not as simple as, oh, come on, El Mayo, let's get in the plane, let's have this meeting, we're going to go for a ride, by El Chapo's son. That's not what happened. El Mayo doesn't just meet with anybody, and he has bodyguards, and it gets very messy to get close to El Mayo. He's a big billionaire cartel kingpin that a lot of people want him dead because he was been up to no good for so long, right? For so long. So it's not so easy to get him. And during the kidnapping, a a Mexican politician was murdered. Okay, a Mexican politician, um, uh, um, Q Hector Q. Um, I hope I'm saying it right. Was murdered during this kidnapping. Uh, so what Conal Whetten was saying on July 3rd, just a couple days ago, was that he was guilty of murder, that he was guilty of kidnapping, that he was guilty of international crimes that amount to treason, because he didn't ask Washington for permission. He didn't ask Mexico City for permission. He had no regard for the national sovereignty of the countries. He tampered with the plane, broke all kinds of flight laws, uh, you know, there's just so much. And then the forgery of everything, the forgery of all the plane details, and that, but God has a different plan. God has a different plan. So they might think, okay, we're the El Paso cartel. We've got the El Paso FBI office. Okay, we're so infiltrated with Michael Mayella, with David Scott Frost, with Ted Petkus, and I know a lot of other names like Jesus Nieto, George Torres. What's the guy that was our contact? That'll come to me too. But uh, we've got the Morales, Morales, we've got the El Paso FBI in our pocket, right? The cartel does. And Conal Whetten, being from the Mormon colonies in Chihuahua, you know, he has this long tenure in the El Paso FBI office. And he's really the guy in charge there from the evidence he's the one in charge. So him getting out there and admitting to leading this rogue operation, and then knowing that the El Paso cartel, um, being a conglomerate with the Sinaloa and the CJNG, are being investigated by FinCEN for the huachicol, or whatever, huachicol, which is the fuel theft, right? The fuel theft. Um, it, that tells you there's Sinaloa. That tells you there's CJNG, and that Sinaloa leads right to Maru Campos, and we know that Maru Campos, because of um, what we've just discovered with Lalo Almeida, being the Sinaloa, the El Chapo Sinaloa money bank for Maru Campos's campaigns, that she is the Sinaloa proxy. She's the Sinaloa proxy, and all of the trails of evidence say that. That's not me saying it. And so they just thought that they could, with their planes, with their um, connections and everything, that they could kidnap El Mayo, okay, who's very hard to get to. It's like trying, I mean, El Mayo is, it's, I just can't even imagine the bravado that they had to have to think that they could kidnap him, and get away with it, and get away with it. That's the thing. So they did. They killed somebody during it, and God had different plans, right? All of their efforts, all of their power they think that they have, is all not, right? And a journalist was there on that day at Santa Teresa Jetport to document, to take pictures of when they took El Mayo off of the plane. Okay. And this is the picture of the plane. This is the picture of the plane here. Let me get it really close. This is the plane. Okay. This is the picture. See, the steps are down. Okay. The steps are down. This is the exact plane that El Mayo was on. Okay. Now, in the comments, people are, and it's interesting, the names are saying, no, this is the wrong information. No, this is confirmed. This is the plane. This is the plane that was out there on that very day that they arrested El Mayo. This is the news reports, okay? This is the news reports. This is the plane. And that plane had N575FA number on it. Okay, that's the license plate number. And this plane is their worst nightmare, the El Paso cartel's worst nightmare, because it connects everything. This plane is Francis Aviation, right? LLC. This plane was owned by Francis Aviation LLC. Okay, so that's the El Paso cartel right there. And then to know that in 2015 that Paul Foster bought Francis Aviation LLC. He bought them. This plane, he bought it, okay? And now, did they do funny business? Yes. lots of funny business. And now again, they're doing funny business, right? Because they are the forgery scammers, right? They're the forgery scammers. They, just think that they can um, really tamper with history. That's what they're doing. They're tampering with history, especially with this whole plenitude crematorium. They're tampering with history. So, in 2024, they were a lot looser, they weren't. That was before January 2025 when President Trump came in with a vengeance and in our son's case, helped us so much. I mean, totally with a vengeance, with designating the cartels as terroristic organizations, turning off U.S. aid, and now going after the Strait of Hormuz and going after all these cartels and, um, shaking up uh, the transnational criminal trafficking world. That's what he's been doing. And of course, he's not liked too much for that because, and he's trying to replace all of that money with real jobs, right? With real jobs, with real manufacturing technology. And of course, he brought in, what was it, like $13 trillion in the last year and a half. And I mean, it's just incredible, bringing in money for FIFA. And I'm very sad to tell you, but the USA lost 4-1. I believe it was 4-1 to Belgium. Good. Well, congratulations, Belgium. And I think congratulations, USA, because they did get really far. They did really well. We're not a huge soccer country, right? We're a football country. And so that's our number one sport. So for soccer to do this well and have this much attention and make this much money, they made so much money. FIFA has done so well in, of course, in the USA, which was also in Mexico and Canada. And President Trump arranged all that, is just amazing how well he promoted it with the FIFA people and with Mexico, with Canada, and it brought so many people together. So we were really watching it. Of course, we root for Korea too, of course, because we have a big Korea connection. And then of course, um, th- number one, USA, right? So we we um we were really sad tonight, but very happy for the whole the, grateful that FIFA's here and all of the jobs that it creates and just wonderful. It's just wonderful and what great fun and what great camaraderie and yeah, so and that's so important for our world, right? Because they just want us to be so down in the dumps and so, ugly and dirty and vile and vulgar and they just these past years it's been like what are you doing, we want beauty and glory and camaraderie um and patriotism, right? So and respect for one another, and they want sacrilege, right? They want to mess with dead bodies, right? They don't even want to treat dead bodies with respect, they're just flesh peddlers and of course they didn't treat Richard's body, they didn't treat him as a soldier with respect, and they don't treat children and with respect or women, and it's just so to see this huge change, to see it be challenged, right? To see the vile and the vulgar and the sacrilege be challenged is such a great thing. And that's what's happening right now. And I have huge news, because of this plane. Mexico now, it's like, the number one story that's on, President Scheinbaum's mind. She just made not too long ago a wonderful economic deal with the EU, which is so awesome because all of that cartel nonsense, that kind of business needs to go away. But if it goes away, you need to replace it. You need to replace it with legitimate business, with legitimate trade deals. And so that's awesome, and I hope that FIFA helped Mexico, um, because the cartels need to go. They need to go. They just ruin the people. Think about the millions and billions, even Pemex um, in this case that we're reading, said billions of dollars they've suffered. Billions of dollars Mexico has suffered from the fuel theft, the huachicol, um, and I hope huachicol, oh, whatever. Um, so, so yeah, and I love that word, I have to practice it. I'm going to say it right tomorrow. But, yeah, it is disgusting that Paul Foster and Alejandro de la Vega, and Alejandro de la Vega is a double agent. Okay, so she lifted up her hand to swear to Mexico and meant none of it. It meant nothing to her. Nothing. Nothing. It's a disgrace. It's a total disgrace. And then she went over to the United States, to Texas, and raised her hand. Did she put her hand on the Bible? I don't know, because that will put her right there in hell, I think. Um, but to swear to the United States, to swear to Texas. And it's a disgrace. At the same time, she's a double agent, and she's El Paso cartel operative. And to see them have this to be connected to the fuel theft, right? And just kind of pay $45 million to pay their way out of it or whatever, when the Mexican people have lost billions of dollars out of it. Um, i- it's, all the pieces are coming together, because they're also, of course, Paul Foster bought this aircraft, this plane, because that plane came with his purchase of Francis Aviation LLC. So I'm not making it up. It is documented because people were having some questions. I posted the documentation. You can look it up yourself. You can go there yourself, and you can put in that number, and look it up yourself. It's just that easy. It's that easy. And then to know that Paul Foster bought Francis um, Aviation, uh, that's easy to look up too. So this plane was theirs. And this plane was the plane that the journalist took the picture of on the very day, the very time when El Mayo was being removed from the plane. Now, I want to tell you what I have been told. I was not there, so I did not see, but I heard that El Mayo was pretty drugged. He was not well coming off of that plane. Okay, he was not doing well. The pictures that are being circulated at the museum have been confirmed to be AI. Okay. They maybe overlaid, or they put it in AI to add, you know, um, some things, right? There's a lot of FBI agents there in that picture. Um, eh, why if El Mayo can walk off the plane, do you need that many? Um, he's old. Um, he didn't need that many agents. Maybe those agents were really lifting him out. I don't know. But I know that he wasn't in good shape. Okay. That has been told to me. So, and why is this important? Well, don't forget that it was Ray Velarde, his lawyer, that was assigned, that cared about Richard, that did the counterintelligence. Not care about him like, oh, I like this guy, I'm going to help him. No, they wanted his information. They wanted to know what he had reported, what he talked to Washington about, what he talked to other FBI agents about, what he talked to the CPS about, what he talked to the Internal Affairs about, and IG about, and the El Paso Police Department and 911 and all that. That's what they wanted to know about Richard, what he saw, what he knew in Qatar. They wanted to know what the distinguished honor graduate that was making rank really fast because he, uh, pretty high IQ there, pretty high IQ. They wanted to know what he witnessed, what he knew, what he had put together. Um, and that's why they sent a billionaire's lawyer to um, to be assigned to Richard. Now, that is very clear to me, very clear. It just, um, at this point, with all of the connections. Uh, Now, Conal Whetten, we know, is a traitor. We know that he absolutely is the fixture at the El Paso FBI with his long tenure. So he absolutely knew about Michael Mayella, and still is working there at the FBI. He knew about Todd Petkus. He knew about David Scott um, Frost, right? Being FBI agents in charge and lead agents of the Walmart mass shooting. And at the same time, David Scott Frost, was living on Fort Bliss because he was an active duty NCO for not for 1AD, for headquarters battery, um 1AD, that was right there with Sean Bernabe. Okay. And here he is in the army and the lead FBI agent for the Walmart mass shooting, who sold out Sean Bernabe, who sold out, uh, you know, uh, uh, the sergeant majors and the other officers. What kind of money, that's why I'm going to tell you a story. We had a VTC about a 15-6, which is an investigation on the climate in Richard's unit, right? And not the climate like weather, but what was going on in Richard's unit. And I asked him, he just dismissed everything. And I asked him, because of evidence that we had gotten, I asked him, well, did you check bank accounts? Did you check bank accounts? Did you look at individuals, and I can name quite a few of them, that have unexplained wealth? Unexplained wealth. How all of a sudden can they pay for a truck cash? Can they, pay for a house? And then they all seem to have uh, a knowledge of playing with the system, because in all their unexplained wealth, they all of a sudden declare bankruptcy. You know, um, did you look at that for for your investigation. You should have seen their faces. It was absolute horror. Not like, yeah, that would be, an option, because there is, especially um, with, now we know all of the documented trafficking. We have a problem with trafficking, and if Richard was um, murdered in the arms room of his own building, 2479 on Fort Bliss, then, there is a good indication we better look at bank accounts, right? Unexplained wealth. So, and all of this tampering and everything, but they were just compromised. They were so compromised. And you could tell the horror on their looks and their eyes. They look like, when you go into a kitchen and your grandkid is in the cookie jar grabbing a cookie, then you're like, I told you can't have that until after dinner. And they look at you like, oh, this is um, absolutely coming all together. So you have the fuel theft, you have the compromised FBI that is totally connected to the Walmart mass shooting with the Mariellas, with Todd Petkus, with David Frost, and others, right? And others, because they are connected. Eddie Neto, his wife, is in intelligence on Fort Bliss. So, he has this connection with Fort Bliss too. Why do they have this? Because you have human resources that are in on this, that put their people in these places to do this bid. It's then it gets very political. And so the Walmart mass shooting, we know it was orchestrated. We know that two individuals, Todd Petkus and David Frost, were up to no good. We know that because the Texas Ranger that was also involved in this said so. said so. That was Juan Torres. He's down in Honduras now. Um, but yeah, so the Walmart mass shooting was absolutely used to um, divert attention to all of the investigations that Richard's whistleblowing reports triggered. And they were triggering big investigations. And they orchestrated a Walmart mass shooting. And we see that clearly when you look closely at the evidence. And we've put it all up there for everyone to see, from videos to documents to, we've spent years going through all of this information. And it's very clear that the Walmart mass shooting, bloody, very bloody, terrible, but it was orchestrated, and the FBI office there in El Paso had something to do with it. Okay, and of course, Conal Whetten, by carrying out this rogue operation to kidnap El Mayo, proves that he's part of the El Paso cartel, because he's using their plane. He's using their plane. And he's admitting it, and he's standing in front of a decoy plane saying, "Oh yeah, or the pictures, that, because I haven't been to the museum, but the pictures that they're putting out there are not this plane." Okay, so very clear that the Walmart mass shooting, that they are the FBI is compromised with the El Paso cartel. And of course, Conal Whetten, is very protective of the Plenitude Crematorium, which, who was responsible for that? It was Mauro Campos's mother. So you had the owners and all the owners' connections, and those connections to group of purchase, that whole transnational cross-border funeral home fraud. And then you had the cartel body disposal site being the Plenitude Narco Crematorium. And who allowed that to be just a body dumping ground? That was Mario Campos's mother. Okay. She was in charge of that. She was supposed to be giving permits out for that. She was supposed to be investigating, doing um, inspections and stuff like that to make sure that it was on the up and up. But no, it wasn't on the up and up. She knew it wasn't on the up and up. She didn't do the permits. She didn't do the inspections. And so absolutely, this connects the FBI because, of course, Conal Whetten is protecting the Purchase Ariano Caron um, branch of the El Paso cartel. And they are absolutely El Paso cartel. And that is where we believe they took our son's body to be disposed of. That's how they did it, was through this funeral fraud pipeline. And, and it all, when you look at Solomon Anusa being mortuary operations, he had the pen in his hand to make it happen through paper and using taxpayer services to make that happen. And then the IDS Pueblo, which is the insurance and the benefits, the disability benefits, the death benefits, that all was, they had the pen in their hand to do that. And then, of course, Dallas Hart being the platoon leader, he had authority to make that happen. So, yeah, it's all a network. It's all an El Paso cartel, and it's involved in the murder of Richard, the trafficking of his body to Mexico, the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting to attack President Trump's and his campaign, to sabotage the 2020 election. There's no doubt in my mind because of look at what Veronica Escobar did, holding $1.2 billion for the Biden and Harris campaign. And she was not even willing to meet with President Trump to show condolences to the families that lost lives there at the Walmart mass shooting. She's just vile and vulgar. So, um, I think I need to go. But anyway, so I will answer your questions, and I will be back. I will be back tomorrow. God